Hello, best learners. This is Mustafa here at Learn with Best, and we've got an awesome video for you today. We're going to be looking at Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 2, never put too much trust in your friends. First, I'm going to define the law for you, and then we'll go over a story from my very own past. And then we'll go over a few examples from the book, and we'll finish up with how you can implement this law into your own life for attaining maximum power. Here's the law. Be wary of friends. They will betray you more quickly, for they are easily aroused to envy. They also become spoiled and tyrannical. But hire a former enemy, and he will be more loyal than a friend, because he has more to prove. In fact, you have more to fear from friends than from enemies. If you have no enemies, then find a way to make them. Okay, so once upon a time, long ago, I had a friend, a best friend. We met each other as fairly small children, and we were like brothers until around our first year of college. We hung out almost every day. We'd go to school together, play video games at each other's houses. We do all the things that boys would do growing up. We went to the same elementary school all the way up to college, and then it fell apart. It all had to do with a girl. My girlfriend and I had been together for around 5 years at the time, and she was this beautiful girl, a knockout, gorgeous blondie. But at the same time, she was also clingy and insecure. Near the end of our relationship, she had developed this fear that she was going to lose me to some other imaginary girl, in her mind. So one day, during a college biology class, I arrived and I sat down next to my best friend because we were in the same class together. I noticed that he was chatting with my girlfriend on his laptop, text messaging, and so I was just like, "Hey man, what's up? What are you two talking about there?" And to my surprise, he said, "Oh, she was just wondering if you had arrived to class yet, and so I let her know that you just came in." At this point, we were like halfway into the semester, and after I asked him a few more questions, I learned that my best friend was going behind my back and letting my girlfriend know whether or not I was showing up to class every single time. Apparently, he had also been reporting to her on whether or not I was talking to other girls at college. He was telling her when I was coming into class and when class was over, what I was doing every time we had breaks between classes, and much more. I felt betrayed, by both of these people that were very close to me. I knew and I accepted the fact that my girlfriend was insecure and clingy, but I still loved her. And never in my wildest dreams would I have expected her to betray my trust so far as to, sort of conspire with my best friend. And him, right? My best friend. He was supposed to be my brother. I cannot even begin to express my feelings towards him. He's basically, like stabbing me in the back, reporting to her about my every movement for like months. It had been at that point. I wonder what was going on through his mind at that time. Was he secretly in love with her? Did he think that by reporting on me, he would somehow gain favor with her and that she would fall head over heels in love with him? I tried to make things right. I asked them both to stop this bizarre surveillance type thing that they had going on. And, they both agreed to stop. So a few days pass and it's time for the next class. So I came into class, and this time I have a razor sharp focus on my friend's laptop. I am glaring at his screen as I walk behind him to take my seat. And I see that he is chatting with my girlfriend. And as I sit down, I see him send her the message, "He's here." That was it for me. I said my goodbyes to both of them, and I understood that things would never be the same again. I just could not trust them anymore. I basically lost someone who was like a brother to me, and I lost the woman that I believed I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Even now, 15 years later, it still hurts whenever I think about it. And this is where Robert Greene's second law of power comes in. Never put too much trust in your friends. For God's sake, man, do not trust your friends. I'm not going to come down too hard on myself for the experience that I just shared. It was a part of growing up, a growing pain of sorts. I was young at the time, but I sure as heck have not and will not ever make that same mistake of trusting a friend again. Or at least not to the same extent. Now, let's look at a few more examples from the book, The 48 Laws of Power, that Robert Greene lays out for us from the past. But before we do that, I want to shamelessly promote my course into the middle of this video. If you want to transform yourself from a lamb to a lion, then check out my course pinned in the top comment below. I teach you the importance of time and how you can manage your time in order to achieve your dreams and your life purpose. Let's be honest here, the majority of the population are sheep, taking part in the 9-to-5 rat race of life, not enjoying their work and never fulfilling or even finding their life purpose. You go to work, you come home, you eat a pizza, watch the newest TV show, and day by day, month by month, decade by decade, your life passes you by and you've never achieved your dreams. So let me be your sensei. I will give you the tools that you need for success. But keep in mind, this is not a magic pill and it will require hard work on your part. You have to follow what I teach and you have to put in the work on yourself on a daily basis. Alright, back to it. So once upon a time, thousands of years ago, there was a young man named Michael and he was going to assume the throne of the Byzantine Empire. Michael was a young and inexperienced ruler and he was surrounded by liars, murderers, and devious villains who were envious of power. Michael needed someone in his court that he could trust. So he looked to his best friend, Basilius. Basilius was a horse trainer, the head of the stables, but on one fateful day, years before Michael assumed the throne, Basilius had saved Michael's life, and so Michael thought that if he could trust anyone, it would be Basilius. Michael trusted Basilius completely and kept raising him up in the realm of power, from head of stables all the way up to chamberlain and chief counselor. Basilius was never content. He always needed more money. Michael doubled and then tripled his salary. Michael even gave one of his own mistresses to Basilius to marry. Michael's uncle Bardas was the head of the army and Basilius was eyeing the position. Basilius wanted the power of the army at his own disposal. So Basilius convinced Michael that his own uncle was planning on killing him and taking the throne. So Michael allowed Basilius to kill his own uncle and gave Basilius the position of head of army. Sometime later, Michael was having financial difficulty and he asked Basilius for help. Basilius refused. Basilius was now more powerful than the emperor himself. Basilius brought his soldiers in and ordered them to kill Michael. They did so, and then Basilius grabbed Michael's head and rode through the streets, proclaiming himself as the new emperor. Holy cow, man oh man, Michael was truly a fool. When a person comes into power, they have to know how to keep that power, and I'm surprised that Michael lasted as long as he did, quite frankly, because he was truly a fool in every sense of the word, unlike any other. Michael assumed that by raising Basilius up in power and showering him with money and gifts, that Basilius would be loyal to him. But obviously, that's not the case. Always remember that no good deed goes unpunished. Never trust your friends. Alright, so now I'm going to give you an example of how you can turn an enemy into a friend. Let's go back in time and take a look at history once again. In Chinese history, whenever a new emperor was crowned, that emperor would be killed in a coup by the generals shortly thereafter and replaced by the most powerful of those generals. That general would then be the new emperor, and to ensure his own safety, he would kill his fellow generals. These types of coups continued happening dynasty after dynasty, and being emperor started becoming extremely dangerous. So when General Chao was to become emperor, he knew that he would likely be murdered within a year or two, so he had to come up with a plan to save his own hide. He called in all of his generals for a party, and after much eating and drinking, Emperor Chao dismissed everyone except for the generals. So at this point, the generals feared for their lives. They thought that Emperor Chao would kill them to ensure that they don't kill him first. They started begging and pleading for their lives. General Chao had to come up with a brilliant idea, and so he told them that instead of everyone living in fear, the generals could instead retire from their positions of power and be given land, money, and women to keep them happy in their retirement. The generals were astonished at this idea, and they all accepted. So what's the difference between these two stories in history? What's the difference between the story with Michael and Basilius versus the story with General Chao and his generals? After all, they both showered their subordinates with riches. Well, the key difference is frame, right? Michael needed to keep Basilius in a position of power because Michael thought that Basilius was his friend, whereas General Chao and the generals knew that they were all enemies, and in order to gain their riches, the generals had to give up their positions of power and go into retirement. So, in closing, what is the difference between a friend and an enemy? Most people view their friends as people who can never betray them, while they know that an enemy is exactly that, an enemy, and an enemy can hurt you. In reality, you never know what's truly going on through the minds of your friends. My own best friend that I grew up with turned out to be an envious and jealous type of a friend, and I never even suspected it. On the other hand, if you have an enemy, then you both know exactly where you stand. And if you can turn that enemy into a friend, that person will likely be a truer friend than your best of best friends, because that enemy turned friend has their worthiness to prove to you. As President Lincoln once said, "You destroy an enemy when you make a true friend of him." If you like my YouTube content and you want more, then please check out my Patreon pinned in the top comment below. I upload new videos every Friday for my Patreon subscribers that go deeper into my life regarding the 48 laws of power. These videos are a bit more raw and untamed than my usual videos here on YouTube. And if you're a patron of mine already, then I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's people like you that make all of this content even possible in the first place. I hope you enjoyed this animated video on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 2, never put too much trust in friends. Please don't forget to simply subscribe, smash that thumbs up button, and make sure you hit that bell icon so YouTube can let you know exactly when a new video is posted. And remember, you only retain about 10% of what you learned the first time around. So watch this video through a few times and then come back to it again and again in order to really understand and ingrain all of the material into your mind. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one. Oh, jeez. Try that again.